And welcome to another scene set in the Chronicles of Darkness, Vampire the Requiem, a Requiem for London. Tonight, we set our scene on the Requiem of Alcide, proud member of the Invictus, of the blood of Ventrue. And tonight, he's heading down the south side of Wandsworth to get a handle on just exactly what's going on there and see if he can assist in the coordination of the defense effort of the domain, as it seems to be suffering from a great many domain breaches, and currently the Archons and the Sheriff seem to have their hands elsewhere, busy dealing with Carthian nonsense and crone curses. So, Alcide, you've managed to get in. You haven't gotten in contact with the landlord of this area in general. You've gotten in contact with one of his vassals. Who has offered to set up a meeting between you and him, as long as she gets to participate. She's hanging around the she told you to meet her just outside St. George's Hospital. She says you won't see her coming, but she'll see you.
Outside of rolls eyes. He's on time. He's going to spend some of his resources that to just for the occasion, for that tasty equipment bonus.
For the fashion, for the lovely.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. You look very pretty.
Yeah.
So you get a car ride. You're actually advised to take your own transportation in Wandsworth. At least if heading down the south side. The underground on the south side isn't considered safe right now. It's being actively monitored by agents of the landlord and the police. But you make it to the hospital, and within a minute or two of getting out of the car and kind of hanging around the entrance, maybe just sticking around the smoking area and just kind of blending in pretty seamlessly to have a cigarette. You look like a very wealthy visitor to a very, very wealthy patient. You can sense a predatory aura around a fairly well-dressed woman, much like yourself. Curly black hair. fair but dusty skin. And large hooped earrings and a pink hat. And she'll just walk up to you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I hope I haven't kept you waiting long.
No, not at all.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been... I've got a few calls from the very person I've set you up to meet. I had to take a look at the morgue. Pretty sickly stuff.
We live in very troubling times.
I can't help but feel as if we always have.
This is our lot in life.
That answer seems to dissatisfy her slightly. Not really towards you, more so that it seems to trouble her. She says, sorry, I don't believe I properly introduced myself over the phone. I'm Jackie Lines.
Politics. Who is this woman?
Intelligence, politics, probably minus a dice. They're not particularly well known.
One 6 hours.
Okay. Yeah, you don't hear much from Miss Lines. She's not really a particularly pertinent power player. She's not really anyone of particular note. You know, she is a vassal to Ishin Karnik, but she has no one that's particularly under her per se. The only thing really noteworthy about her is that, well, she runs the hospital. That's about it. It's not necessarily that she's looked down upon, it's just that she's not particularly important.
She does her job and does it well, I see.
Oh, you also know that she is a maquette.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you know about her.
Well then, after you, Miss Lanes.
Of course. Oh. She'll begin to head towards the car park. And just begins to head towards her vehicle. She says you can just follow her in your vehicle if you want, or you can get a lift from her. It's no problem. She says that her elder isn't particularly far away. They're actually in they said he said you could meet him in Vadoza and Chutney. It's an Indian restaurant.
You'll ride with her.
Okay. Anything you say while you're getting a lift?
I'll talk about her job, her work, her ambitions. Does she have any? How's life at the hospital?
The hospital's nice. I used to be a patient here, so I'm sort of a natural fit for it.
I hope it's not prying too much, but what for? Administration or something else?
Oh no, I was in palliative care.
Ah, did you enjoy it much?
I had I had made peace with my condition. Yes, I had the staff are very they were accommodating. I can't say it was necessarily pleasant, but I was they'd made sure that I was prepared for what was about to happen. Then I wound up like this, and well, things got a whole lot more complicated. Actually, you can roll me. Yeah, so be intelligence, streetwise if you have it.
Let me check. Nope, don't have it.
Okay, it's just -1 dice then. It's just intelligence, -1 dice.
Okay.
But are you a smart boy?
Let's see. We'll find out. This episode of Dragon Ball Z. No, that's wrong. Oh, no successes.
Okay. Oh wow, you rolled triple fives. That's interesting.
Yeah. Not my day.
Yeah. I mean, at least you won the slot machine.
Yeah.
10 coins.
Yeah. That's nothing.
But no. You kind of think about it. You haven't heard of when you sort of considered her as a kindred, not much really came to mind about her. But you swear you'd heard her name in the news somewhere before, but you can't quite remember. Must have been a while ago.
He nods. He gives her a glance as if he's trying to place her face, but kind of shakes his head.
Her face definitely looks familiar to you.
Are you known for anything else? He'll simply ask. Clearly unsatisfied that he doesn't know anything.
Known for anything? No, I wouldn't say I'm known for anything per se.
I don't know. I'm just getting this weird sense of deja vu. No matter. So, do you think of, I suppose, the life you would have lived if you weren't in the city?
Hmm. At this point, I believe I'd very much be 6 feet under with a very pretty looking gravestone overhead.
No, I mean if you weren't in your condition in the city.
Ah. Hmm. And she actually seriously considers that. Well, I suppose I'd be working in charity.
Mm. So you say you have a heart for such things?
Yes, well, I'd studied I'd studied business and administration in university, but I very much wanted to get myself employed with one of the charitable foundations littered around London.
Well, I'm pretty sure you know about the issues going on in the area. And it's almost imperative that we each do our part to make sure that this city remains safe and that others aren't in or forced into very uncomfortable circumstances.
Hmm.
Won't you agree?
Oh yes, I've already been. Well, I've been assigned to the hospital to look over it. I've been trying to identify if any kindred have been trying to make their way into the blood bank or have been feeding off of staff.
Mm. Has your research and your development yielded any results?
Hmm. It was one of the first places that had been hit. Identified several kindred that have been violating my feeding grounds, but I haven't made contact with them yet. I wanted to, but Karnik said I should leave them be for now. See if see if we can trail them, given the amount of given the amount of crime and muggings that appear to be happening around Wandsworth. We think
Well,
it's coordinated.
the issues having happening in Wandsworth and the predicament of things happening in the South, a lot of those territories have already been fairly monitored and secure. It wouldn't be too much trouble if we could extend the search, being that you are otherwise compromised with a more daunting task set by your elders.
Oh, pardon?
What I'm offering is that there's already a contingency of individuals who are willing to step out in a show of good faith to help protect the domain, well, that of the Invictus from outsiders. So it wouldn't be too much issue if this coalition would be more than suited to reach out and see that such efforts would be less of an issue or hassle for you, since your hands are already dutifully tied.
Well, in my opinion, the help would be appreciated. I'm not really much of a combatant myself. I'm largely someone who, well, watches. I make an exception for the hospital. I mean, it's a hospital. I don't take particularly kindly to people feeding off the staff and endangering the patients.
Well, then, about this individual, the landlord, how would you describe him?
Efficient but self-interested.
1 minute.
It's fine. Alcide has to take a call as Jackie Line simply continues to drive. We'll just take a short break.
I apologize as he hangs up his phone. Business meeting. But I do believe with a person with such a calculating disposition as you described, I would I would hope that he would see the fruition of my earnestness and making sure that no other people end up in compromising positions. I know that some people who rather delight in our condition, but I take no joy in performative cruelty.
Well, I would, forgive me for saying, but I would hope not. Personally, I don't either. I'm just trying to resolve the situation to the best of my ability, and it's been a very rough couple of months. I don't really
With
know
the,
where all of these kindred are coming from. It's what worries me.
I think we're getting closer to the issue. However, since you already have opinion of this individual, your expertise and your familiarity would do wonders to make sure that no other individuals are harmed. You would be paying an active life in the protection of your charges, as it were.
That's all I really want to be. At least right now. Do you want to make a wits empathy roll on
Um, I was gonna ask for a charisma persuasion
her?
so I
Okay.
can get her on my side. Like once we get there,
Sure.
but I'll make the roll you asked for. Like,
Yeah, it's just wits empathy minus 3 dice, because that is her manipulation score.
oh, she's being sneaky.
She's being a sneaky snack.
No, you're supposed to be a good noodle, a gentle woo, not
I mean,
manipulative.
she might be a gentle Wooloo. She just might also be a sneaky Wooloo. I don't know.
Oh, that's wrong.
You know, Wooloos are great at hiding in plain sight.
Oof.
Oh dear. That's fine. Yeah, she seems. I mean, she seems genuine. She's certainly worried about her patients and well, the hospital in general. She doesn't seem to be. She doesn't seem at all happy with the fact that it's been a target. She doesn't seem surprised that it's a target, but she definitely is very, very uncomfortable with that fact.
Okay.
It sort of reminds her of kindred, well, the worst of the kindred nature.
Roll's not my favorite tonight. Yeah, it happens.
Well, you begin
But
to
good.
park up up to the restaurant. Again, it wasn't very far.
Oh, can I have the other roll before we like get out the car?
Oh yeah, sure thing. You can continue talking to her as she parks up. Her car is a fairly I should have noticed before, but it's a fairly nondescript sedan. It's not a particularly affluent looking car. It doesn't hardly screams authority or wealth, but it does blend in.
Yeah. Five.
Oh, very impressive. Yeah, she applies no resistance to this check. She's very much on your side.
He nods. He would get out first and open her door. Proper gentleman.
Oh. That actually surprises her. She's very grateful. She says,
After
"Thank
you.
you."
After you, my dear.
Why, thank you. He should just be up the stairs. He sometimes likes to take up the whole floor.
Indeed. He allowed her to lead the way and follow her up the stairs.
Um, the restaurant itself is actually fairly small.
Mm.
It's a small restaurant along the street. And for most customers, they would be eating on the ground floor. Tables are fairly nice, but it's nothing, again, doesn't scream affluence or power. It's rather just a nice private place to meet up.
Mm.
And as she begins to approach the stairs, a few members of staff kind of give Jackie the wink and a nod, giving her permission, and by extension yourself permission to go up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
To which you're exposed to a similar but smaller room of tables and chairs, and one of them is my minicam keeps closing down. One of them is my minicam. One of them is this fine gentleman.
Does a courteous bow.
He will get up from his seat. He will give you a slight bow of courtesy. It's much slighter than yours,
Mm-hmm.
but it is there. Jackie, for her part, does a very large curtsy, and remains that way until she is acknowledged.
Mm.
To which he just sort of nods at her, just respectful enough for her to not for it to not come across as insulting, but perhaps brief enough for it to come across as ever so slightly dismissive. And he will walk up to you and says, Mr. Herveau, I've heard about you. You've been making waves up north, from what I hear.
Yes, it is a job of most young invictus to see to the security of their domain.
Yes. Well, as Jackie has been telling you, I'm sure, we've been working quite vigilantly to secure this area. My apologies for forcing you to contact myself. I would have gotten in touch earlier, but the situation in the south is a touch more pressing than the bickering between neonates up in Battersea.
I assume the issues in the South have been quite daunting.
He considers the use of the word daunting. I'm not sure I'd say that, but it should be noted. I'm not stating it, but he does speak in a fairly prominent Indian accent.
Mm-hmm.
I would say intriguing.
Mm.
I have not seen this many kindred work to subvert a domain in such a concerted way before. I say concerted. I wouldn't say it is particularly well coordinated, but I would suggest it is perhaps coordinated.
Was the jumble in his words, was that did he intend to do that?
Oh yeah.
Alcide will kind of watch him because that was just a curious look. Do actually can I have an insight? It's a little weird. That's bothering me.
Yeah, sure. For every success, I'll allow you to ask a question about him, or about how he's feeling.
uh Okay. Um, oh, it's empathy, not insight. What am I thinking? That's V5. Wow.
V5 is inside.
So that is. Yeah. Two successes.
Two successes? Okay, what do you want to ask him?
Basic. The first one is his relationship between Jackie and himself.
Hmm.
I have an idea what type of relationship it is, but it was he did it in such a way that it was sort of a scene.
How to put it? It's largely professional. She seems to have. She is obviously in the inferior position.
Mhm.
She plays the role of vassal or slash servant figure to him quite faithfully. But given the way that she's talked about him and the way he has interacted with her in this over the brief few minutes that you've seen them, appears to suggest that it might be ever so slightly strained. Perhaps not enough to cause immediate issues, but it is noteworthy. It is there.
Mm-hmm.
There is a hint of frustration to their relationship.
The other question that I sort of want to hint at, or rather ask, is his feeling of control of the situation. Like, does he feel like he's in control of the situation?
Yeah, a good way to put it would be confident but concerned. The way he's talked about it to you is that it's definitely something that he actually considers a legitimate threat to his control.
Mm-hmm.
But he is confident he either is handling it or can handle it. But he does view it as something he needs to deal with now, as opposed to I can put this off, or oh, it's just a bunch of idiots being foolish. This is something where he's like, oh, I need to pay attention, and I need to react, and I need to fight this. It is something that is drawn his attention in a pretty direct way, both from what you've heard down the grapevine and both from what you're hearing from him now, which, given that he is an elder, albeit a young one, is perhaps slightly concerning to you as well. That would concern him.
Mm-hmm. So, not to not to make this interaction any less uncomfortable. But there is a very large problem. And
I agree.
what precautions has the South taken to make sure that mutual assets are okay?
He stops and he says, define assets.
I speak of assets as if I'm well aware of the growing tensions between the North and the South. However,
It's largely their
wait,
problem, not mine. I don't really care for them particularly one way or the other.
well, it's funny that you should say that, being that when individuals are conducting themselves in such a way, um, it is far more interesting and rather peculiar that if there's no rice in the pot, as it were, to be had, then both the North and the South starve and no one is fed. Being the way the recent activities has conducted themselves,
Hmm.
it's alarming. Which I say the individuals in the area, I consider them not property but assets to be cultivated. Dignity.
Sorry, what did you consider assets? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that part.
Assets to be cultivated, dignified, handled with dignity.
Hmm. Well, not to be not to be blunt with you, but as the one who is currently managing
Mm.
the concentration of domain breaches and masquerade breaches that follow in the
Mm.
south, I would argue that it is the south side of Wandsworth that is taking the main brunt of what is occurring within the borough proper, although it would appear that Battersea, for whatever reason, is struggling the most, in spite of the absence of that threat that is currently assailing us, which I
That
can
would
only
be.
put down to poor management from the landlord in the north.
I say this that the information or that your I will not say that the information that you have garnered is incorrect, but I will say that you have neglected some key points that I would be more than happy to avail you with, being that the situation in the North has been mostly unified under one coalition and very much so under a increasing uptick.
He is. He's not entirely sure whether he should be insulted yet.
It's the way he phrased it. He didn't call him an idiot. It's just like you just don't know everything, but
you will say. Well, please, if you believe there is anything that the domain or myself have neglected in dealing with this issue, please feel free to clarify. A fresh outside perspective would be appreciated. You can definitely roll socialize on that if you want. Socialize.
With socialize, you said?
Yeah.
Oh no. Someone's going out. He's trying to pull me.
Socialize.
Man, mistake. Scared wolf sounds like what you don't know. Like, you said wits?
Wits,
socialize?
Yeah, wits is basically awareness, perception, that sort of thing. Ability to think quickly on your feet, perceive things, or like perceive things or react as things happen. And socialize is basically etiquette and ability to blend into a social scene.
Oh, one success.
That's a lot of ones. Good thing it's not old world. Yeah, with that success, fresh outside perspective is code for. Why the fuck is this new guy telling me what I'm doing wrong? What the fuck do you know, kid? It's kind of like it's an extremely polite. It's kind of like the inverse way of saying that. Like he's saying it would be appreciated. It's more like he's trying to. It's almost like he's trying to get a response out of you so he can tell you why you're wrong. There's very much that seems to be he seems to be basically being very polite in how he intends to sort of put you down. He's put on the nice velvet Invictus gloves. Civility and all that.
Alcide will look at him and say, as per previously mentioned, the information that I'm giving is not to demean any effort that is happening here. Let me be very clear in that. It is more to help augment as the information as well as the security of both domains is paramount. Being that I understand growing tensions and hostility are indeed a thing, and the North and the South very much so are content with dealing with their own matters. However, when it comes to the way the kind have been acting in the recent accounts of barbarism, we both have something beneficial to gain. This is not me here. This is not a veiled attack to assume.
Oh no, I'm sure, of course. I assume you would have come down here as a matter of genuine concern, as an honoured son of the unconquered who wishes to protect the domains of said covenant. I would never assume otherwise.
And I very much so accept and am very honored to be met with an elder of the Invictus.
That does put a smile on his face. Oh, but If I may ask, then what can the South do for the North? He smiles.
And Alcide, now that he's caught this man off his guard, he'll smile and say, the issue is this. Both Spillane and the what was the Nosferatu Templar's name? I've only seen him a few times.
I got his name right here. His name is Archon Kozlova.
Elder Spillane and Archon Spilova have very much so been very interested in the comings and goings of both the coordinated domain breaches the in the in the domain, both the North and the South. Both of them have put a fair deal of considerable assets in the continued success of this domain, and most of us, if not all of us, are almost required by duty and by dedication to see that both the security of the domain and that this issue is handled in a directly way, which is why the efforts that have already been taken and been blessed by both individuals were done in such a way that brought greater stability to the South. What the South can do for the North is to make sure that this continued web of influence continues in a strong unified front. Although I do specifically understand if you have no desire to work with any of the aforementioned individuals.
While I'm unsurprised by one of those names, the other does intrigue me. I am quite curious as to what Lady Spillane sees in this whole situation other than perhaps distant curiosity and concern, given her new residency. Not that I am taken aback in any way, it is just strange to me that she is one of those that you have elected to mention. Arkham Kurslova I can very much understand. He is a straightforward man, both in intent and in his duty, which I can respect. I can only imagine that he would much rather be here than doing what he is currently doing, but, well, he would understand better than I how duty calls one to unpleasant places and deeds.
But being that I cannot take full responsibility for the coalition, Jackie was very helpful in denoting the pleasant work that she's done, and it bodes well to your leadership.
Why, thank you. Might I say how impressed I am that you've managed to take control of the situation up north so quickly.
So I suppose the next question is, would you be interested in aiding this tight-knit web that has been sanctioned and blessed by a few others, but being that this is an Invictus issue, it is being dealt with in-house. Jackie, did you have any points you would like to bring up?
Jackie actually considers if there is anything, and Ishan actually looks quite curious as if she is going to say anything. But she says, after kind of considering for a few moments, I believe. I believe all I could possibly offer would be nothing but minutiae and details that would bog down this conference, but I would, if I may be so bold, definitely encourage your lordship to work with the North in spite of any misgivings. It would go a great way to showing the city the power of the unconquered when unified, and definitely work to show the graciousness that you have already displayed me over the past few months. It is definitely an opportunity for all involved if we can turn the situation around. Ishan seems to take on those words. Seems to take those words on board with a degree of reticence, but he does seem to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we are all agreed.
Before I go into more specifics of the plan, hold on. Something I want to do. Hmm. Hmm. Uh, there's two. Okay, so I'm a little. This is where I'm a little unsure, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Um, invoking the oath of service or the oath of defense, which is more appropriate in this situation?
A second. Oaths. Well, I'm trying to find oath of service or oath of defense.
Basically, the oath of service is one of the least demanding of the invictus. Vassals or courtier vassals swears to dictate some of its nightly energies to pursue the Lord's agenda, various small tasks, etc., etc. Breaking an oath of service at the barest minimum is considered rude and in poor judgment, but is not the most solemn of oaths and is unlikely punished by anything more than a severe tarnishing of reputation and a loss of esteem within the covenant.
Okay.
Being killed over a broken oath of service is a rare occurrence.
Which book is this?
Hold on.
Because it's not in the second ed books I have, but it may be in the other ones.
Hold on. I'm looking for the page because I did a wiki search. I apologize.
Yeah, because oaths are things that are voluntarily signed between Invictus. So it wouldn't necessarily be something you could invoke unless that was already signed between you and the kindred. You could propose it be signed, but then the issue arises who will be the legion, who will be the vassal in this agreement, which of course may cause a lot of other conflicts because no party really... This is one of those awkward situations where it wouldn't be clearly defined who is clearly the inferior party.
But I definitely believe this shouldn't just be like a word of mouth thing. Because if it's a word of mouth thing, he could easily take advantage of the situation, and then all my work is for naught.
Yeah, you could propose a mutual oath.
I think.
Yeah. Are you referring to the oath of blood service?
That one's a little too big for this, I believe. But is there one a step below that?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the one in the Invictus book. It might be in the first edition Requiem book, so I'll just look there. If not, this could simply be taken as an oath of action. Which is a vassal swears to perform a service to their liege. The service must be a difficult task with a definite criteria for accomplishment or failure. But in doing so, it confers the liege's disciplines upon the individual. That's a bit more direct in that it gives disciplines, so it doesn't necessarily give... It gives like very direct benefits towards a very direct goal, but it would definitely apply here if you wanted to propose it. Granted, proposing an oath to an elder would be pretty difficult to do, because they are definitely not obligated in any way to you, and you don't have a lot of leverage to sort of convince them to take on an oath. If phrased incorrectly, it could come across as quite insulting, because obviously it would imply that they are not trusted to fulfill their agreement.
I mean, he's already coming off as shifty as fuck, but like...
I mean, yes. I don't disagree. Let me see if it's in the first edition book. this is helpful. Okay, yeah, it doesn't seem to be in the it doesn't seem to be in the first edition book either.
Okay,
This would probably fall under an oath of action though. So it'd be, you know, this is definitely a task that this would definitely be a task that would fall under criteria for an oath of action, which admittedly is a 4-point oath, so it's not a minor oath, but it does also confer significant benefits in return to the vassal, so that's one of the big reasons why. But needless to say, it would signify a definite agreement between Ishan and whomever is to take on the oath for the North, because obviously the landlord there appears to be using Lionel as a proxy, and they haven't actually engaged with you directly, but have given the authority. They've given authority to Lionel to make those calls. So, presumably him or yourself. Being a vassal to an oath isn't so bad. You do get significant benefits from doing so, particularly an oath of action. You would get quite if Ishan would be the lead, she is an elder, so you would probably get you would gain many powers of blood if you were to take on this task. Granted, it would only last until the task is complete.
That's interesting. Yeah, though there would be no, I can't think of another way to, like, I don't feel comfortable taking this man on his word, because if I just take him on his word, then this all falls through.
Yeah, it's very much a risk. Granted, you do have a witness in Jackie, but you're not entirely sure where her loyalties lie right now. She almost certainly has an oath of some sort to Ishan if she resides within his territory and manages part of it for him. But that much is indisputable. You'd know that just by being a member of the Invictus. The question is, does that necessarily mean she is loyal to him in any particular way? Is perhaps the real point of contention. There does appear to be at least slight strains in their relationship to each other.
So it would be a question of, if we take this oath, there's nothing. There has to be someone there to, like, signify that this oath took place. Is that what you mean? Does somebody have to, like, witness the oath for it to be valid?
Yes, for an oath to be validated, it actually requires a specific kindred, which in the Invictus is specified as a notary. There's a specific title. A notary is actually is a honoured kindred within the Invictus. Mechanically, an Invictus needs to be of 3 points of status or higher to even be a notary, so they're all very important kindred within the Invictus. And they are effectively a scholar of oaths that preside over agreements and ensure that everything is above board.
Oh, then I know just who to call them. Since the Archon already owes me a favor for taking on this task.
Okay. There are several notaries in the city.
I'd rather work with one that actually likes me.
All right. Which notary do you want to take on?
Could I take on the Archon? Is that valid or no?
The Archon is not actually a notary of any Invictus. He has oaths.
Mm-hmm.
He has oaths from people and has oaths to lieges, but he's not actually a notary himself. But you know there are at least 4 notaries within the city that are kind of active.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where's my folder now? There's a notary known as Orlan Gersh. He is or Gosh. He is a Ventru notary.
Mm.
Of your house, there is also Arthur Douglas, who is an Elder Maquette. He's also of your house. Then there is Marshall Holbrook and Esther Grimald.
Mm-hmm.
Marsha is actually quite young. She is a neonate notary, which is a fairly uncommon thing to hear, and she's the only neonate notary. And Esther is another recent elder. And he is she is a notary of House Valerius.
Would I be able to tap I have ventral status. Would I be able to tap that to get the ventral of my house? I'm in fairly good standing.
You do have clan status, yeah. You could ask as a kind of favor from one cousin of the blood to another. It is possible to do. Although first you'll have to convince Lord Carnick
Yes.
to sign, because oaths generally have to be voluntary. At least in regards to this power dynamic, you would not be able to force his hand. He is of more Invictus status than you, so.
So, back in character, politics. I do. Oof, don't start off that way. I do believe that it would, being that we're dealing with a very sensitive issue, and both territories of the North and the South have a great bit to gain and a great deal to lose. It would be only right and proper that such formalities be done in a very official way, as Invictus do. Being that so much is at stake and so much is on the table.
Roll me your manipulation plus persuasion. I'm gonna.
I've been charming, Chris. I've been nothing but charming. Uh, can I make an argument for charisma persuasion?
Um,
I've been the actual attempt
you're trying
of
to get him to do
civility.
something that he might not be keen on doing, which is why I say manipulation, because it's less about him being emotionally swayed and more about him being pressured.
I'm not pressuring him. This is him. I'm being sweet. He can say. He can say no.
Yes, but you're trying to get him to. You're trying to deal with him a bit. You're trying to. It's more about getting him to do something, more so than anything else. It's not necessarily about him liking you more than it is just about getting his fucking pen to the paper, as it were. It's very much like just sort of less diplomacy, more wheel and deal. Even if it is diplomatic as fuck.
It is diplomatic as fuck.
I appreciate you.
I know.
Obviously, you can imply Invictus status to this roll.
Okay.
You will lose a dice equal to his composure and his Invictus status, which equates to 5. But you can spend a willpower too, if you want, which will give you 3 extra dice.
Okay. Alright.
Keep in mind, even if he agrees, he may have certain expectations.
Mm-hmm. So manipulation plus Oof. I do that. How do I want to do that? That's 5. Minus 5. That's 3. 3, that'll leave it 6. Minus 5. 3 plus 7 minus 2. That's a willpower. Gives me 5. Status gives me 6. Sharpen looks 7. And that's 9. Okay. I will attempt. That fucking minus 5 hurt the fuck out of me. Oof.
He is an elder. Is a fairly difficult man to convince, particularly when it comes to sensitive matter of Invictus oaths.
Oh, that's not right.
You're still rolling 9. You're still rolling 9 dice anyway, so fuck you.
I made this character to do one thing, and one thing only. I may not have a dot of fortitude on my sheet, but I can charm people like a motherfucker.
Where's my coffee, bro? That's Carthy. He can show you how it's done.
3 successes. It's not the best, but I make a solid argument. I can't. I need to get.
Murder you anyway.
Oh,
what the
bully. Scared Bulu sounds like.
Karnik measures you very, very closely for a few seconds. And he's very much weighing up that it's very clear, like you can tell as someone who engages in this a lot, you can tell that he is very much weighing up the consequences of either taking you up on your sentiment or taking insult and throwing you out of a room. And it definitely at least feels like the options he is weighing up are very binary. And his animated demeanor has faded pretty substantially. He is quite stiff right now. He very much resembles the elder that he is. But then he will simply take to his seat again, and he'll simply say, and actually in a very casual gesture to you in a very casual way, and he'll say, I am willing to have a binding agreement made as a show of good faith. As both you and Miss Lines have said, it would go quite a ways to... Oh, 1 moment. Yep.
We'll come up in about half an hour.
So yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm literally almost done. That's fine, yeah.
Alright, well.
It will go away to showing that the Invictus is a block and not to be trifled with. Although there are matters of details and minutiae, but I suppose that can be handled when a notary is called to officiate. It certainly is not for me to impose here. That would be, well, frankly, it would be nothing more than honourless bullying. It is beneath both of us. But yes, I am very much willing to be a part of a binding agreement, perhaps even an alliance, if you will, between both halves of the domain or the borough.
Absolutely. With that, he would pick up his phone, excuse himself from the room to place the call. Well, no, he wouldn't excuse himself. He would do this in plain sight. He would first call, he'd have the conversation with his contact in the north, saying that he's taking point and that this is about to happen, and then call the notary from his house to do the favor.
Alright, so what
Lionel would get the call. First he would let Lionel know what happened. Like his fingers go on his phone. Out of respect. But and then he will be calling the venture.
Okay.
calling on his status to oversee something.
Okay.
This could have went so poorly.
At
Could have been
least
thrown out
two
of here on my
at
face.
least two of the notaries are of your clan. I assume you want the one that is of your clan and from your house.
Correct.
Okay. The status bonuses that you have with your clan and your covenant don't stack. It's either one or the other. But
Gotcha.
yeah, you can. So basically, you will call the number.
Mhm.
They have an official correspondence and a private number, mainly to keep them out from the chaff in a lot of ways. And the phone is picked up. It is not picked up by the notary. It is picked up by their secretary, who politely asks you what business on what business you are making this call, and if
Official matters of the invictors of the security of the domain. This is Alcide Evero.
And what can the office of Notary Gersh do for you this evening?
Myself and what was this man's name? The one
Ishan
sitting.
Karnik, which I suppose he
Ishan
would be referred to as
Elder Karnik.
He's a landlord, so he'd be referred to as either Lord Karnik or Liege Karnik, as he's the liege of several oaths over various vassals of the area.
Myself and Lise Karnik have come to an agreement of the protection of domain and will require the assistance of a skilled notary.
I see. So you wish to employ Notary Gersh's there is no pause, sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. You wish to employ Notary Gersh's official duties.
Correct.
Okay. You hear the tapping of a keyboard. I believe we can fit you in for next week. Do you want to make an immediate presence persuasion roll to say fuck that, we're doing this tomorrow or bust?
Can I make a charisma expression roll to say like no, bro,
No,
at me?
to say, well, this is a very serious matter that involves the defense of Invictus Domain against criminals
We're dealing with active criminals.
who seek to defile the assets and the honor of both parties, as well as the greater Invictus, which, to be fair, is a pretty compelling argument. So you're gonna hammer that shit home.
Yeah.
I believe.
So that is that. Just to be sure that based off your previous ruling, we are using expression and persuasion interchangeably because of the overlap. They're pretty much the same skill.
Yeah, expression is a bit more. Persuasion is not performative. Expression is a lot more performative, but I'll allow expression in this case because they both apply to expression and persuasion both apply to oratory and debate.
I have a specialty in debate.
Yeah, but certain things persuasion can do that expression can't. Like if you were trying
That's
to,
fair.
I'm trying to think of. Yeah, if you're trying to lead somebody but weren't doing it through oratory, it would be through persuasion. If you were
Okay.
trying to, if you were trying to engage in diplomacy, it would be persuasion.
Okay.
If you're trying to debate someone, it could be either.
Okay. So that is 3.
But yeah, they are quite similar. I do agree.
Okay.
I'm trying to differentiate them as much as I can because goddamn, they make it difficult.
One success, I believe.
Okay, they'll save it. They'll punch you in for tomorrow.
Oof.
You make it that this matter is a much higher priority. Like that, you may not obviously have the same status as some of those that are before your vote, or those meetings that have already been pre-booked. But you are a this matter does involve the security of Invictus Domain, and that is not an understatement. That is very real, and there is reason to believe that the issue is only going to escalate given time. So they will book you in for tomorrow. So it won't happen tonight, but it will happen within a night from now. So very shortly afterwards.
He'll hang up the phone. It's set for tomorrow night.
Excellent. Well then, I look forward to it. I hope we can resolve the matters plaguing Wandsworth as soon as possible. If for no other reason than to deal with the vagrants on the west side.
He'll laugh at that. Fair enough. Very good, sir. Very good. I don't wish to impart on any more of your evening. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh no, thank you. You have been a very pleasantly surprising representative for Battersea and the north side of Wandsworth. You represent their interests well.
Empathy. To be in an ass. How do what's empathy?
Yeah, just make the wits empathy roll. He's not hiding anything this time, so it's unresisted. Just use standard dice pool.
Roll 4. I keep too many similar. I can't tell. Dairy farmer. He just nods.
You have the empathy of a dairy farmer.
No. He nods though.
Yeah, no, he seems relatively genuine. It could definitely be inferred as a backhanded compliment, but he doesn't really seem to imply it that way. He seems to at least register you as a human being that he at least respects to some nominal extent.
Gotcha. He will turn to Jackie. At your leave?
Of course, thank you. She will curtsy very graciously to her landlord again. She'll say, "My liege," and Karnik will see her off. Or like with kind of give her the casual gesture of you can go. You're dismissed. You don't have to remain here. I give you permission to leave.
Oh no, poor Jackie. While they're walking down the stairs and out towards the car, Alcide will say, "You handled yourself well."
I I know the man well enough to know what to say and when to say it. Generally involves saying very little.
He won't hide. He'll kind of breathe, like almost letting out too much air. Like
Yeah, it's cold winter day. It kind of lets out, your eyes are quite visible.
this was an interesting day, but nonetheless, I appreciate your assistance today.
It was. I'll be in touch. I I've been trying to keep track of what is going on beyond the simple borders of my hospital.
Absolutely. He'll hand over his business card.
Oh, thank you.
But I need to. I have other meetings to see to this evening, and I have to report
Hmm.
to my associates what's happened here today. But today, I believe, was done in everyone's satisfaction.
I hope so. I'm impressed you managed to get him to get my liege to, or convince my liege, perhaps would be more proper to say, to consider an oath. They are oddly sensitive topics to those of age.
Uh, One must consider that in order for us to still maintain our place here and be of service to those and our vassals, we have to learn how to play the game or be used.
Hmm.
It's a sad truth of the world we live in, but in order to do as we must, we have to act in a way that ensures their safety.
Well, you'll find no argument from me. But if there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
There is something you can do to help.
She
Um,
raises an eyebrow.
there are, well as the information that you have garnered from the hospital and the the things that you are more privy to than us. Would you be willing to share that information to a larger audience?
With the court at large?
Oh no, not the court at large, just with the North specifically, because it concerns our territory. That's all.
Well, I really only know of what has been occurring from within my domain. It's why I have been strongly considering, particularly of your arrival, expanding my reach somewhat. We've been kept fairly decentralized from each other as vassals.
I see.
I have been told it is because my liege does not wish for any communication to be intercepted or to fall into the wrong hands, which comes across as while I can understand, it is slightly odd to me.
understandable.
It is.
Though,
It is. It is. How to say? Conveniently paranoid.
correct, right? Perhaps once this business is all done, we could be in talks about both of us acting as official liaisons for the North and the South. I think this would be an agreeable arrangement.
I definitely agree. However, it would not. Unfortunately, it is not my choice. I can only. I can only hope I am chosen, though.
You give yourself far too little credit.
Well, as they say, pride cometh before of a fall, and I'd rather not fall and keep my eyes open.
Well said. And with that, he will exit the car and make his way home.
Yeah, she'll drive you back to the car park where your vehicle is, and then you can make your way home from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that I think we can bring an end to the scene. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching us. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.